This meeting is being recorded.
So everybody, we're going to go through property interest in the Computrainer. I definitely recommend both the Computrainer and the Prep Agent for doing your test questions. The Prep Agent seems like more vocabulary oriented, and it feels like if you know the vocabulary that you're good to go. But the Computrainer actually kind of gives you a little bit more scenarios, and you have to deduce the answer. I do recommend, doing both of them and getting 85 to 90 on both of them to prep yourself for the state exam. Question 1 of 54. So the Computrainer is set up a little differently. When you do Prep Agent, it's always 100 questions. In Computrainer, I think there's, I don't know, I want to say 900 or a couple thousand, like 900 or 1,000 questions or something. And so they just have them in categories. And if there's only 54 questions, that's all there are. So we're going to focus today on property interest. A fee simple absolute estate would best be defined as an estate based on a condition subsequent, an estate without encumbrances which can easily be transferred, the highest interest a person can have in real property, or an estate which is less than freehold.
C.
It's the highest interest you can have. A fee simple, or a fee simple absolute are all different. If this is probably the right answer for all of them. This idea that an estate is based on a condition subsequent, that is like, it's a fancy way of kind of saying like a defeasible estate. In other words, you could lose your title the title could be defeated if you break a condition, okay? So that's why that's wrong. An estate without encumbrances, all property has encumbrances, right? All property either has zoning laws or some sort of laws that dictate what you can and can't do with it. So when they say like something doesn't have something, although it's funny on the other day when I tell you guys don't like pick anything that has all or always, it's kind of funny because we did find one question in the Computrainer last week that had an all, like the answer was the always one, but like almost always, if it has all or always or something like that where it says there's no conditions, like without encumbrances, all property is encumbered to some degree through zoning laws and stuff. And an estate which is less than freehold is a leasehold estate, which is not a fee or freehold estate. So there you go. There's the answer. Of the following, which best defines a fee simple estate? Title in the owner without limitations, an estate for years, a life estate with the most interest one can hold in land.
D.
So let's talk about the other ones though. A title in the owner without limitations. Again, here we're talking about something that has no limits. Reality of it is all land has limits, right? We cannot build a ladder and go to the moon. We cannot take a big drill and drill through to China. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, right? We only own so much, so far into the airspace and so far into the soil of the earth. We don't own so we can, drill to the other end of the universe, An estate for years, who knows what an estate for years is?
It has
An
a
estate
start
with a
date.
start and an end date.
All know the answer. That's wonderful. Yeah, estate for years is it's a less than freehold estate. It's a leasehold estate, and it's based on a start date and an end date. And it can be measured in days, weeks, months, or years. What's a life estate?
The life of the person that's
Right, it's based on someone's life. It could be based on the person who lives there. It could be based on the person that doesn't live there. So in one of the questions we had recently, I think somebody sent me a question and it was like, okay, if somebody has a life estate on someone else's life and they die first, the person who has the life estate dies first, what happens to the life estate?
It goes into the inheritance.
No.
Is it based on the person that's life it was based on?
Right. So at the end of the day, if someone else, if the other person dies, right, then it would revert back to me, right? But if I die first, that life estate keeps going. And so my heirs or whatever has to keep that property that still belongs to the other property until they die. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The life estate is based on someone else's life, not mine.
Mm-hmm. Like it's willed.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really get willed because it's,
It just falls on the next.
Yeah. So my devisees or heirs will still have that estate and remainder, but it's still based on the other person's life. So like nothing changes. That person still has that property because it's based on their life, not mine. The answer A is eliminated because all property is going to have some limitations. For example, powers of zoning and building code. So these are the things I say all the time, but they're here in the answers, right? Whereas a fee simple estate is the most interest one can have in property. An estate is granted to A for the life of X. A dies while X is still living. The estate ceases to exist, reverts to the original grantor, vests in X for his life, or vests in the heirs or devisees of A.
D is in dog.
Yes. So see, A is granted to A for the life of X, and A dies, and X is still living. So if A dies, his heirs get the property because X is still alive. So yeah, it's like Tara said, it's like it's like in a will. Until X dies, their heirs get the property. Tyson owns a store building, which he leased to Crown for 7 years. His estate in the building is personal property, an estate for years, a chattel real, or all of the above.
Oh, state for years. Oh, wait, could be all.
All the above.
Yeah,
All
of
of
them.
the above.
all the above.
Yeah, a lease is personal property,
Mhm.
and it is an estate for years, and it's a chattel real because chattel means it's personal property, but an interest in real property. So chattel is personal property, right? Chattel sounds like cattle because it's movable, and a lease is literally a piece of paper that can be moved that grants somebody possession of a property. So the answer on this one is all of the above.
A and C are the same thing.
Yeah. An instrument which usually transfers possession of real property but does not transfer ownership is a mortgage, a sublease, a security agreement, or an easement.
Sublease.
Sublease, yeah, transfers possession. What does a mortgage do? Tell me, who can give me the best definition?
It's the promise to pay.
Nope, that's the promissory note.
Oh, that's it. No, it's you can. If you don't pay, it's the opposite of what I said, but.
Yeah, if I don't pay, you can sell.
can
It's
sell,
the
yeah, that.
document that secures the property for the house. The mortgage is the document that secures the property for the house. It creates the security agreement that allows the bank to foreclose on you should you not pay for your mortgage. That's what a mortgage does. Okay, what does a security agreement do then? It's the same thing.
Promise to pay?
Mortgage. No, the
Oh, is it?
security agreement is the same. It secures property but it secures personal property for a debt. Like when you buy 12 rooms of furniture from Ashley Furniture, or when you buy your car, you sign a security agreement that says, hey, this is securing this property for this debt.
Oh, okay.
So in that way, they're the same, except a mortgage is for real property and a security agreement would be for personal property. Okay, and what's an easement? Who knows the definition of an easement?
The right to cross over someone else's
Somebody
land.
else's land.
Right, and what happens when you buy both parcels?
The easement is gone.
Right, it's called a merger because the definition of an easement is the right to cross over someone else's land, and when you own both properties, then you're not crossing over anyone else's land anymore. There we go, good job, guys. This is why I like Computrainer too, is because I think the way, it gives you a lot of reasons to talk about the questions and kind of decipher. That's why I want to take time to like go over them and talk about them so that you guys know how to think about the questions on the test, Which of the following would be considered real property? A maturing grape crop, which is under a sales contract and to be harvested later. Trade fixtures that a tenant has installed, but which are removable without damage. A built-in refrigerator in a mobile home that is not attached to permanent foundation. A bearing wall in a single-family house.
D.
D.
It's D as in dog, yeah. A bearing wall in a single family house is immovable by law, right? And that's the definition of real property. Real property is immovable by law, and personal property is chattel because it's
Ooh.
oh.
Yes. No.
You
See that?
realize that I say that every time I see that word. It's
Movable.
movable.
It's
Just
fun
like
being in Wisconsin because of that. We're getting a huge snowstorm tonight, like probably like 9 to 12 inches. So
Oh, how pretty.
yeah, it'll be really, it's pretty, but I mean, it's so funny to see all the plow trucks out and they're salting and like, it's like, it's very, and like, you can just see the workers that are part of cleanup,
Oh.
very involved. And it's just, as you're driving home and you see plow truck out and like just natural, like regular everyday pickup trucks with the plows on them. And you know what I mean? Like these people who, this is what they do during the winter time. So it's kind of exciting it's kind of interesting to see them all kind of round up,
Mhm.
Personal property can never become real property, be hypothecated, be alienated, or none of the above. So now we need to talk about these definitions. Can personal property become real property? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. A ceiling fan in my car is personal property because it's movable, right? But once I attach it to the ceiling and it like hooks up to the electrical system and it's attached to the rafters, right? Because it's like basically it's attached to like a beam in the house. You're not just putting it in drywall. That becomes real property, right?
Okay.
Okay, hypothecated. What does hypothecated mean?
Yeah, I don't understand what that would mean in this
it
case.
runs with the land.
Nope. Hypothecated is when you take something. So when you're going to take something and make it security for a debt, you're hypothecating it.
Oh, okay. So no, that's not it.
Right. Personal property can never be hypothecated. Yes, it can, right? Cars
Mhm.
can be hypothecated when you buy a car,
Mhm.
right? Your
Yeah.
Ashley furniture can be hypothecated and a house can be
The
hypothecated.
house can be, yeah.
Uh-huh. Be alienated. What does alienate mean?
Separated maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, given away, transferred, that's the alienated means separated, given away, transferred, walking away from it. So personal property can be that. So the answer is none of the above, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. Personal property sometimes becomes real property when it's affixed to real property. It can be hypothecated, as when a person borrows against a car, he hypothecates the title. It can be alienated or conveyed to someone else. So those are the words you need to know. Those are just definitions. John conveyed his ranch to Brown under a land contract of sale. The ranch was serviced by a mutual water company. So when I read this question and I don't even look at the answers, I think to myself, what are they asking me? They want to know if the water goes with the land and why.
Land rights.
Huh?
Land rights? Water rights?
Water rights, But we can finish reading the question, but I know right away when I see this, I'm like, oh, this question is about, does a mutual water company run with the land? And the answer is yes. Does water company, is that something that's pertinent that runs with the land?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But why? So we know the answer is yes. Yes, and stock is always personal property and therefore not include, oh wait, the stock was Jones, oops, sorry, I have to move this. I made a mistake, I apologize. This needs to be different. What is bigger? Let's see. Yeah, that's what I want. Sorry about that, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so the stock which Jones owned was pertinent to the land. Does Brown have to enter into a separate contract for the stock of the mutual water company? Okay, well, no, the answer is no, right? Because it runs with the land, but why? Because land in California can't be sold without water rights. Is that true? Or can you buy land without water rights?
Yes, you can.
And I've known people who've accidentally done it.
Yes.
It's a bad scenario because they didn't do the
Yes.
diligence.
Yes.
No, because the stock was appurtenant and the land to the land and therefore part of the real property and part of the contract. That is the answer, right? Stock in a mutual water company is usually considered real property and it usually runs with the land.
Mhm.
And appurtenances run with the land to the new owner. Which of the following is always, excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah, no.
Bless you. Bless.
Bless you.
Thank you, guys. Which of the following is always required in joint tenancy ownership of real property? The clause with rights of survivorship, equal shares of interest in the property by each of the joint tenants, a husband and wife relationship, or all of the above.
B.
Correct. It automatically, so joint tenancy is the only tenancy that automatically comes with rights of survivorship. You can have community property by itself, and then if you have that, you're allowed to will it separately if one person dies. But if you have community property with rights of survivorship, then kids are out of luck. In other words, even if there is a will, that the rights of survivorship take precedence over that. But the only one that automatically comes with rights of survivorship is the joint tenancy, okay? So community property would be husband and wife owned. So the answer was equal shares. What are the other things that you have to have for joint tenancy? TTIP, what are they?
Time, title, interest, and possession.
Yeah, TTIP, time, title, interest,
Time,
named
title.
in the same title, named at the same time, have equal amounts of interest, and the unity of possession. And the tenancy in common, the only one that's the same is that unity of possession. The tenancy in common can be different times, different titles, different amounts of ownership, but the one commonality is that unity of possession. In other words, in the joint tenancy, you have 33 and a third, 33 and a third, 33 and a third, but we all have 100% ownership rights. In a tenancy in common, I might have 90 and somebody else has 10. Guess what? There's the 100% ownership there. I can't say, listen, you only owe 10%, so you only get the house like 10, whatever, 50 days a year, 36 days a year, Legally and technically, property is defined as freehold estates, things which buyers and sellers own, rights or interests which a person has in the thing owned, or only personal property.
C.
See,
Yeah. It's the rights or interests. When we own property, it's what we can do with it that creates the ownership, right? When we own real property, we own a bundle of rights. The right to use, possess, encumber, transfer, convey, will, sell, right? But if somebody gave you a piece of property and said, okay, you can't do nothing with it, what do you really own? Nothing, You can't go there, you can't look at it, you can't drive on it, you can't sell it. Well, what do I really own then? Same with anything. I got this lovely Goodwill jacket. It's like, if I couldn't wear it and I couldn't put it on and I couldn't give it to other people, it's like, what do I really own if I can't do anything with it, right?
Mhm.
Property is legally and technically defined as the rights that a person has in a thing owned. It refers to the bundle of rights theory. A tenant in good standing under a valid 5-year lease, which makes no mention of assignment or subleasing, may legally do which of the following. So first off, if we have a lease and it doesn't mention whether or not we can sublease, can we or can't we?
Yes.
we
we
can.
We can.
You can.
So when you get a lease, what do you get when you sign a lease is all the interest of possession. The seller gives you all, or not the owner, the landlord gives you all the interest of possession subject to things. So you're supposed to get it all, and then they have the right to refuse something, right? Don't drink, don't smoke. What you do, you don't drink, don't smoke, don't have a waterbed, don't have a dog, don't have a cat, don't use the garage, don't use the shed, right? So that's what that's what a landlord gives you. They give you the rights to do whatever they would do it, the quiet enjoyment of the premises, minus whatever things they don't want you to do. So if there's something they don't want you to do, they have to mention it in the lease. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It has to be in writing, right?
Leases, yes. If a lease has to be in writing if it's over a year.
Hmm.
So they may legally do which of the following. They may sublease the property to another, but only with the consent of the lessor. Is that true?
No,
No,
They may assign but cannot sublease. Is that true?
no,
no,
They can sublease to another but can only assign with the consent of the lessor.
no.
They may
Mm.
sublease or assign the lease to anyone since the lease made no mention of any restrictions on such action.
true.
Yes.
That's the one. When comparing condos to rented apartments, which of the following would be true? The person who occupies each would have an estate in real property. Is that true?
No.
Yeah.
That is
Yep.
true.
Ah,
So
Oh
a
my God, I
person who
would've gotten
owns a
this one.
condo has a fee or freehold estate, right? And that's an estate in real property. And
Oh.
somebody who rents an apartment has a less than freehold or a leasehold estate, a chattel real, remember? So they have an interest in real property, but it's not ownership rights, it's possession rights. So that's the answer.
A.
Correct. Another name for an estate of inheritance is a fee simple defeasible, an estate at sufferance, an estate in fee, or a probate estate.
B,
A.
D. David.
No,
B,
fee,
Sufferance.
it's fee.
sufferance.
Okay, I said C.
No.
I
Who
said
said?
C.
Okay, so,
C.
and, so remember a fee or freehold estate has two types, right? There's 4 types of leasehold estates and there's 2 types of fee or freehold estates. One is a life estate and one is the estate of inheritance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
And
got it
the
wrong.
reason
The
that
sufferance
is
the life estate.
the
Right?
life estate and
It's a
so
sufferance.
the life estate and the estate of inheritance. So when we transfer like a fee or freehold estate, one of the definitions of a fee or freehold estate, a fee or freehold is of indefinite duration. So a life estate, because we don't know when whoever's life it's based on is going to croak, right? And the state of inheritance, because we don't know when someone's going to croak.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just real quick, if you're okay with it, Cassie, I just want to tell you guys, I know that one just because inheritance has in at the beginning and then estate in fee. And I don't know why, but that's why I remember it every time, just because it starts with in and then estate in free.
Oh, okay.
Thanks
That's
for
like
that.
a little cheat sheet note to yourself.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
yeah, that
Yeah,
kind of
that's a
stuff
good
helps
idea.
me a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
She's gonna become the next Kathy, huh?
yeah, maybe she'll train you guys after I'm done.
Yeah.
So estate of inheritance is a fee or freehold estate because one of the definitions of it's of indefinite duration, and we don't know when we're going to die. So that's when then if we don't when we die, someone inherits our stuff, or when we die, that life estate transfers to, you know.
So the estate in sufferance is that one where you're saying they're suffering, whatever. That's the one
No,
of
that's one of the that's one of the less than freehold
less
estate.
than freehold estate, right? Okay.
There's 4 of those. So what are the less than freehold
Okay.
estates? Sufferance is one.
Okay. Less than freehold. Is the sufferance, and then there's like the deadbeat boyfriend, and then
Yeah, that was that one. Estate at will. Mhm.
At will,
His name is
okay.
Will. Your deadbeat boyfriend's name is Will. So it's the estate at
Yes.
will.
So deadbeat will,
Uh-huh.
suffering, and then there was 2 other ones.
Defeasible.
Remember those ones.
Refeasible.
Oh yeah, that's that one.
No,
No,
no, that's
Oh, no,
no,
no drinking.
no.
The
So there's
with-
that's the defeasible. That's the condition. That's
conditional
one that has
one.
like that's a fee or freehold estate that
Okay.
has a condition. So there's remember there's the estate for years with a start date and end date,
Yes.
and then the estate of what is it called, Melinda?
I'm trying to think. You're talking about less than freehold estates,
Month
right?
to month.
Yeah,
There's
it's
the
month
four.
to month, week to
Month
week, or
to
year
month,
to year,
yeah.
successive periods of the same time.
Oh
Life
my God.
estate.
No,
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 Estate for years.
no, it's
I don't know why I blanked on it.
I know, no, I am
No,
too, but
no,
Estate for
tax.
years, right?
Huh?
no.
Estate for
no,
years.
it's a start and end date.
So the 4, okay, there's the 4, right? And everyone thinks the estate for years is that one. A periodic tenancy. So there's
Yeah.
the periodic tenancy. It's a-
Periodically.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 4 less than estates. The periodic tenancy, week to week, month to month, or year to year. There's
Periodically.
estate for years, which can be measured in days, weeks, months, or years, but it has a start date and an end date.
Okay.
Okay, the estate at sufferance, because the landlord is suffering because the tenant won't move out.
Mhm.
And then the estate at will, because deadbeat will is on your couch.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, now, there's two that are considered fee or freehold estates, the life estate and the estate of inheritance. And the defeasible estate is one of those. It just means that you would lose your rights if you did something that would defeat the title. In other words, that was the no drinking alcohol one, or changing the bearing wall, or whatever.
Okay. So the conditional is defeasible.
Yeah, the defeasible or the defeasance clause puts a condition on the fee or freehold estate.
Okay. Okay. It's all coming back to.
Excuse me.
Does anyone have a question on that?
Mm.
Okay. David gave a grant deed to John transferring title to a house. The title is subject to a condition stating that the title will be forfeited if alcoholic beverages are ever sold on the property. John would have which of the following estates? A fee simple absolute, an estate structure, or a less than freehold estate?
Because we just talked about it. That's why.
Feasible.
Welcome.
Yes. But that's why we talk about it, because on the state exam, if you
That's
can
why you
tell
remember.
yourself why the right answer is right and why the wrong answer is wrong, you've already answered a lot of the questions that are going to come up.
Yeah.
It works the same, because the question that you just answered sort of was a preparatory thing to something that you're going to see 4 questions in or 10 questions in. You know what I mean? And that's why I want you to take your time, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting this, you know?
Now,
So
I have
like
a
this
I have a question in regards to the test. Now,
Yeah.
does it start easy and then it gets harder, or is it
No.
all?
No, I had one student that had like, so she just had brain freeze or whatever. And she
Oh.
had the first 16 questions she didn't know the answer to, and she stood up ready to walk out. And the proctor said, sit down, take a breath.
Oh my God, that's gonna be me.
And then,
Don't claim that. Don't claim it. Don't claim it. Don't claim it.
no, and it's funny because one of my students was really, was nervous. She didn't pass too. And but she told herself, Kathy told me that if I got my 85s to 90s on all my other test questions, and I'm going to tell you, the people who fail don't do what I tell them to do. Like even the guy that just failed his test was like, oh, when I said, I told you to do the Computrainer, he was like, yes, you did. And he like screenshotted the thing, and I said, yeah, see, it's written down in the everything you need for class. It says it in there. I've said it a million times on video. Like, so it's weird because when the people do not pass it, and I tell them, well, I did tell you, and they're like, yeah, I didn't really do that. So I've only had a couple people that have done like got their 85 to 90, but the one thing they did is they crammed and they memorized the answers, and then they didn't pass because they memorized it. And I could tell they memorized it because when we go through questions like this and I ask other questions based on the questions, they never have the answer. And it's okay to not have some of the answers or a lot of the answers, but some you should, right? Otherwise, you're memorizing just the answers that are going with that particular question. That's why I want you to think differently. That's why we do this, right? We want to bring up the other answers. A family rents a vacation home from September 1st, 2002 to January 1st, 2003. Their tenancy would be which kind, guys?
D.
D isn't.
Estate for
D.
years.
Years.
D for dog.
Just periodic
And
tenancy.
an end date,
Mhm.
not a periodic tenancy.
What's
No,
the periodic tenancy again? It's a lease and freehold estate.
Week to
What's the
week, month to
difference?
month.
Oh,
Week to
So-
week. It's successive periods of the same amount of time.
got
Yeah.
it.
Week
And
to
This
week.
one just
month
has
to month,
a
year to
begin
year.
date to the end date.
Yeah. And
Okay.
In
yeah.
this question,
even if it's
Periodic is like,
Yeah.
in this question, what if it doesn't have a 1 on each month? Is that
True.
still considered state of years?
Yeah, because the state of years has a start date and end date that can be measured in days, weeks, months, or years. So if it's exactly 7 days, it's not a periodic tenancy, it's an estate
Okay.
for years. If it's 35 days, it's an estate for years. If it's
Yeah.
a year and a half, it's a estate for years. If it's for 5 years, it's an estate for years.
Yeah,
so
just try to keep
periodic
that
Successive
minus.
periods of 1 year, this does not say it's successive periods of 1 year.
Oh, if it
Exactly.
just said like if they did it like every year or whatever, like that's what I'm saying. When does it become? Give me an example of when.
So
the
you're,
periodic-
so when you lease out your house and somebody signs a year lease, it automatically turns into a month-to-month lease if they stay there after.
after the lease is done. That
Yes.
one. That's a periodic tenancy.
Yep.
Okay.
But even staying, let's say week to week in a hotel room, that would be a
Yes,
periodic
That's periodic.
tenancy.
Okay. See, that makes sense.
Or
I
like
put it
a
in
hotel
real
rooms are
life.
like a day to day to day thing, right? It's
Yeah,
successive periods of the same
periodic
amount of time, then they charge you for each day.
Oh
That's-
my gosh. Now it just makes sense when you put it that way.
But a state for years has a start date and an end date that can be measured in days, weeks, months, or years. So if it's a start date here and an end date here, it's
That's the state for years. Got it.
even if they say 1 month, if they say 6 months, if they say 1 year, if they say 5 years, if they say March 17th to March 22nd, it's all a state for years.
Pretty much if you see 2 dates, just go for a state
Yeah.
for years.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Got it.
By the way, a month to month is a periodic tenancy. So when two of the answers are the same, right, that one of the answers was a periodic tenancy and then one
True. I
month
didn't
to
even
month.
look at that.
Those are
So that-
synonymous for each other.
There it is.
They both can't be right, so they have to both be wrong.
Wrong. Yep.
A person who held a life estate leased the property for 5 years and then died 1 month after signing the lease.
Life estate.
The new owners,
Huh?
the lessee to move out. The lease was valid for the 5 years, valid for only as long as the lessor was alive, invalid from the beginning, or invalid unless the deceased executor confirmed it.
B.
B.
B. Valid on
Be
as
like
long
boy.
as.
Okay.
The person
Also-
had the life estate, when you have a life estate, you own the property. You have the rights to lease it out or do whatever you want to do. But if you croak, the lease is dead, just with
Yeah,
you.
I was with you.
Mhm.
They can only lease what they have, you know? Which of the following would be defined as a fixture in the law? Something that is made part of the chattel reel, something referred to by actions but not referred to in the sales contract, something incorporated into the land, something used in an extraordinary way with the land.
A.
C.
B.
See?
So, chattel reel is literally, chattel means cattle, it's movable, which is not a
Mhm.
fixture, right?
It's not. Oh.
Mhm.
Chattel is movable. A fixture is something, remember the ceiling fan in my car is chattel, but when I put it into my house, it's a fixture. It's supposed to stay with the house.
I always want to say a fixture is, I don't know why in my mind.
Well,
Like-
it's affixed. So you have to think of a fixture as being affixed in a way that makes it not movable.
Okay.
So yeah, it's incorporated into the land. Whoever said C was correct.
Yay, oh my God, that was a guess.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith held a life estate in a single family residence. The estate was based on her own life. She leased the residence to Mr. Jones for a 5-year period, but died a few weeks after the lease began. The lease was invalid on its face because the holder of a life estate does not have the right to lease the property. Valid for the remaining term of the lease. Valid only during the life of the lessor. Valid only if Mr. Jones was unaware of the life estate when the lease was created.
I want to say B.
I think
Like
C.
the least-
It's the same question we had 2 questions ago.
Yeah.
Valid only
Should see.
of the lessor.
Yeah.
The lessor. Oh, of the lessor.
Mhm.
Of the lessor.
Yeah, the
Mm.
giver of the lease. Mr.
Yes.
Jones gave the lease and then Mr. Jones croaked.
Yes. So it's for him. Okay.
Which of the following is not a characteristic of a fee simple title? It is real encumbrances. It is of indefinite duration. It is transferable with or without consideration. It is transferable by will or intestate. Which one of those is not true?
Of a fee simple.
What do we know about a fee simple estate? Let's start at the bottom. Is it transferable by will and intestate? Sure, yeah. If somebody dies with a will or without a will,
Yeah.
it's gonna go to somebody else, right? It's transferable with or without consideration. Is a fee simple estate allowed to be transferred with or without consideration?
Yeah.
Sure. Because it's transferred without consideration in a will, right? And it's transferred, you can transfer to your grandchildren or your family or
Mhm.
whatever, right?
Mm.
You can transfer your property to your spouse. Is it of indefinite duration? Is a fee simple title indefinite duration?
No.
No.
Yes, it is. Remember, a definition of a fee simple,
It's
right? A fee or freehold estate is of indefinite duration. I don't know when I'm gonna croak.
right.
Fee or freehold estates are life estates and estates of inheritance, because I don't know when I'm gonna die.
Mm,
It is not real encumbrances. That's a made-up thing.
mm.
Real encumbrances, that's the ticket.
Encumbrances can be defined as anything which burdens or affects the title, such as easements, restrictions, encroachments, non-money encumbrances, or trust deeds, mortgages, and judgments, which are money encumbrances. But fee simple title is not real encumbrances.
You know, that's that question there, you
Yeah.
have to really think because it said is not.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're trying to decipher what each question is, then you start thinking about it is.
Right.
Well,
You
that's
know.
and that's the thing
True.
where like they add the real encumbrances, like you're not
Mhm.
even thinking about it. You're just reading, right? And then if I like if it said is encumbrances would have made more sense than real encumbrances, right?
Mm-hmm.
That word right there.
Yeah,
Mm.
they're gonna try to trick you.
Mhm.
Which of the following rights of ownership in real property do individuals not have? Severance rights, eminent domain rights, riparian rights, or election rights? So let's talk about these rights. Who knows what severance rights are?
Ever.
I know Sever is like, hiya.
That's what I keep saying.
But severance rights are like giving it away, walking away from it, disconnecting from it, severing yourself from it, right?
Mhm.
Cutting ties.
Yeah, it's cutting
Eminent-
ties. Can you cut ties with property
Yes.
as an individual?
Yeah.
Okay. Eminent domain rights. Do you have powers of eminent domain as an individual?
No.
Mhm.
No, who
Is that
has the
the
rights
law?
of domain?
The
The
government.
police and the government.
Government, airport authority, right?
As long as they pay you the right value to the
They
property.
have to, what are the two rules of eminent domain? Let's talk about that. They have to give you a just compensation
compensation.
Compensation.
and what
And
else?
it has to be for public use.
Yes, not private use. So individuals can't do it. Like even an individual corporation can't say, well, it's much better for a Walmart to be here than this house. No, it doesn't work like that. It's for all people to benefit from, like an airport or a train or something like that. What are riparian rights?
Water rights. In the
Water
river.
rights. Mhm.
What is it, right? What?
Riparian rights have to do with river, like a river rights, like your rights on water.
Rip.
Riparian
Rip.
and water. And if riparian is for river and littoral is for lake.
Lake.
Okay.
What happened to the question?
Huh?
She went to the next one.
Oh,
Used in real property law, as used in real property law, which of the following is most nearly correct as the meaning for the word tenancy? The landlord-tenant relationship, the obstinacy of a holdover tenant, the mode or method of holding title to real property by a lessee or owner, or none of the above.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm gonna say no.
I
C.
say A,
I said A.
because
No.
the method is
It's
a
C.
lease.
No.
No?
See?
It's
Okay, so it's like the lease, so it would be that one. See, I was either going with those two.
well, tenancy means like,
I guess it's not the relationship.
well,
because-
listen, you can have property by joint tenancy, right? Is that a landlord lessee thing, or is that ownership,
Ownership.
right?
Mm.
So tenancy doesn't just mean like the landlord-tenant relationship. Tenancy, joint tenancy, tenancy in common are two ways of
No.
ownership. And then,
Yeah.
of course, you have your tenancies with leases as well. So that's why it's the mode of holding the title to real property by a lessee or an owner.
Mhm.
Mm.
But that could be nearly correct. That's just
Yeah,
nearly correct.
Property by leasing.
but it's not about just
remember
the
that.
tenant-landlord
gonna
relationship.
remember.
That excludes the landlord-tenant relationship, excludes the joint tenancy and the tenancy in common and the ways of holding ownership rights.
Mm.
Okay.
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 Which of the following is regarded as personal property interest. All buildings erected on a parcel, a stand of virgin timber, leasehold estates and real property, or rights to the unextracted minerals. Which one is considered personal property?
Rights to the unextracted minerals.
D, leasehold estate.
Okay.
It's a leasehold estate. Leases, remember, are a chattel real and they are personal property. Unextracted minerals are still in the ground, which makes them part of the ground, which makes them real property. Virgin timber is uncut trees. So they're in the dirt. And of course, buildings on a parcel are attached basically to the dirt. You know, they're on the dirt. So they're considered real property.
Real,
Yeah.
and personal, real and personal.
So don't
It's
forget,
always trying
leases
to
are
put
leases
leasehold
are
to personal. Leasehold
That's my
equals
whole thing.
personal.
I know the difference, but I put which one I think is in my mind.
Mhm.
And I'm not reading it, I'll go real. I'm like, no, it's not what it said. It didn't say real property, even though I thought it. It says personal property. Damn it.
Yeah.
When the state has given permission to a non-riparian owner on a farm to use a nearby lake, the owner has received this right by eminent domain, estoppel, percolation, or appropriation.
D.
Yes, appropriation is when they allow someone to have rights to water that is not abutting the water. Appropriation is the giving of certain rights by judicial or government body. Percolation is the ability of the soil to absorb and drain water. So normally when they're doing like a septic tank, they do a perk test to see how much water can run through the soil. Let's see. The estoppel is a principle of law that bars people from asserting certain rights. And eminent domain is the right of the state to take property for public use. Which of the following is the legal method that a city uses to implement its general plan? Variances, general land use, zoning, or conditional use permit?
C.
Zoning. Zoning is police power. Zoning equals police power equals promoting the public health, morals, and general welfare of the public. Okay. A city's general plan indicates the areas which will be used for which types of development. In order to implement the general plan, the city will pass zoning laws allowing only certain types of development to occur within certain areas. When rent is computed on the gross sales of a business occupying real property, the lease is correctly termed as a net lease, a gross lease, a voidable lease, or a percentage lease.
B.
Grossly.
B.
Mostly.
It's a
B.
percentage lease.
Percentage.
It's a
Sales.
percentage. It's a percentage of the sales. So it's a percentage lease.
The gross, and you get a percentage of the gross.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. A gross lease is literally like I'm paying $1,200 a month or $2,000 a month or whatever. It's okay.
Okay. Clicking. It's clicking. I promise.
If a man has a freehold estate, which of the following would result in his having a less than freehold estate? A sale and a lease back, the selling the mineral rights to a third party, giving a leasehold interest for 5 years, or granting a life estate.
Okay.
Right, a sale and a lease back. In other words, he has a fee or freehold estate and then he sells it and now he's going to lease it back. Now he has a less than freehold estate. If a man leased a store for only 6 months, he would have an estate from period to period, an estate for years, an estate at will, or an estate at sufferance.
B.
Stay for years.
Yes.
Infinite.
The remedy of unlawful detainer action is used by the offended grantors, holders of notes in default, lessors, or trustors. Does anybody know what an unlawful detainer action is? It's a
I want to say B.
Yeah, I think it's B.
Oh no, the trust
No,
store.
C.
The trust store.
It's C, lessors. So what is an unlawful detainer? It's an eviction. It's a fancy word for eviction.
Okay, so
Oh my
unlawful.
gosh, why didn't I remember that?
An
Right,
unlawful
it seems so
detainer
easy, like,
action
once it's
equals
like, why
eviction.
don't we? So annoying. Okay, let me see. I say it's so annoying, like to my own brain, you know, like self. We should do this.
So an unlawful detainer action equals eviction, and lessors would be the person that would evict their tenant. The lessor is the landlord who is entitled to the reversionary interest in the property in the event the tenant has breached the lease and refuses to give up possession. So that would be like the tenant is creating an estate at sufferance, and now the landlord is going to evict them.
Yeah.
That's an unlawful detainer action. Which of the following is considered personal property? An easement, mineral rights, an existing mortgage, or trees growing in a forest?
Personal property.
Mineral rights.
And
Existing
part
mortgage.
of the land. So
A mortgage.
I
What's
think
a
it's B.
mortgage?
yeah.
The mortgage is a piece of paper that says, if I don't pay, you can sell.
No,
There you
But
go,
it's a
Tara.
piece of
there
paper.
it is. There it is.
It's a piece of paper that's movable. A
And it's-
lease is a piece of paper that's movable. So those are considered personal property. An easement is the right to cross over someone else's land. And so that's real property. Mineral rights means you have rights to the minerals on the, you know, like when Jed
Ground.
Clampett was shooting out some food, went up from the ground, came a bubbling crude.
Mhm.
What is that?
Mineral rights.
Half the people here don't understand that.
You
No one
guys
does.
saw the Beverly Hillbillies?
No.
I used to watch them when I was little.
I'm sorry.
I have aged myself so much today. Okay.
I understood you, Kathy, so don't feel
I
bad.
sing it in the video. So it's kind of funny to me that you guys, those people who say they watch my videos, I do stuff that's in the video and they're like clueless. I'm like, oh yeah, you didn't see that video. Which of the following would not be classified as real property? Appurtenant easements, water courses, unextracted minerals, or leasehold estates and residential property?
Oh, pertinent and easements runs with the land, water courses, unextracted minerals, leasehold estates and residential. D?
Yes, those are
Yes.
less than freehold estates, or those are personal property. Like leasehold estates are personal property, not real property. All of the following are factors generally considered when determining whether an item of personal property has become real property, except agreement between the parties, permanence of the installation, the cost of the article, or the relationship of the parties.
C.
Yes. How do you solve
Understand
a
this question.
problem like Maria? It's manner of attachment, agreement of the parties, how it's installed, rights of relationship of the parties, and adaptability, not cost. It's not Marcia, not cost, and it's not Martian, it's not time. But Maria. So if it's not in Maria, it's not the right answer.
Not Maria.
Yep.
So
The five,
then-
the five tests of picture are the intention of the person. So it's the method of attachment. That's M.
Okay.
It's the adaptability of the item, which is A.
Okay.
The relationships of the party is R. The intention when it was built, like did they build it into the, you know, did they build it into the wall on purpose or whatever? That's the I. And then the agreement of the parties is the last A, Maria.
And that's when
We know something
personal becomes real.
that, yeah, well, that's when a fixture becomes, yeah, when a personal property item becomes real is when it's attached in a way that's now it's immovable.
Okay. When Maria comes along.
Yeah, when Maria comes along, she decides which of the following is not a test for a fixture: the intention of the parties, the method of attachment, the agreement of the parties, or the time of the attachment.
Test for picture.
Mm.
Immovable space. So.
D.
And
What
boring.
is it?
The time.
Time, right? It's not Marcia, it's not Martian, it's Maria.
For
They
real.
don't care. They don't care if you put it up the day before, huh?
Okay.
Right, they don't care about the cost. So literally those little light switch covers are real property because they're covering up like the wires and stuff. So they're screwed into the wall. So that is considered real property. So it doesn't matter if you have the $25 one or the 58-cent one. You know what I mean? The 58-cent one, it is still whatever. It doesn't matter if you installed a $600 ceiling fan yesterday, the day before you put your house on the market, it doesn't matter. It's real property if it's up. So if people say, oh, I need like that, that's my chandelier that I got from my wedding from my great grandmother. Okay, take that one down, put it in a box, and let's put up the $12 Home Depot one you want to sell at the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which of the following best describes what a landlord-owned apartment building and condominium project have in common? I think we've had this question before today. The tenants each receive a separate bill for property taxes. Occupants of both each have an estate in real property. Both properties are regulated by the Subdivided Lands Act, or occupants of both unit properties have a fee simple estate.
B as in boy.
Yes,
Estate.
they have an estate in real property. The landlord-owned properties have a fee simple estate, and the people who are renting it have a less than freehold estate, but they both have interest in real property. When an owner of real property is called a riparian owner, the land in question would border a river, a watercourse, a flowing stream, or any of the above.
B.
A,
Hey,
Above.
a river.
Oh,
It's
the river.
D.
Not. other-
D.
It's D. So riparian rights have to do with moving water. So if
Oh,
call
I'm
it
a river.
riparian and river, it's a water course, a stream, a creek, a river, it's moving water. A littoral is literally like land,
On the lake.
ocean, a pond,
Uh-huh.
a bowl of water, kind of a
Oh,
huge bowl of
standing
water.
water. Like
Yeah.
or sitting water.
Stagnant,
Okay.
stagnant water. Okay.
Stagnant. These ones are all flowing. Okay.
Yes.
So the riptide.
Yeah, I would have got that one wrong because I just said river.
What is a water
But the
course?
other ones were all kind of similar. They
Yeah.
all
A
move
water
together.
course and a flowing stream, just like it might not be like it might not be.
It's a description, right, of what a river.
Yeah, like a river,
is.
flowing stream. Yeah, is a river.
Mhm.
So it's got to be all of them.
Like I was wrong too. I chose river right away because that's.
Me
Yeah.
too.
But
Your
it's the
brain
first
goes to
one.
that.
Because
Yeah.
you're not reading the rest of them. That's what I do the same thing. And
So
you're
now
like,
you
wait a
just gotta read them all. That's why I just tell you to
Yeah.
read every answer to feel like, okay, like, is this yes or is this no? Because it's good to double check. All right. The personal, revocable, and unassignable permission of authority to do one or more acts on the land of another without possessing any interest therein is the definition of a license, easement, encroachment, or option.
License.
Hey.
License is personal and revocable, like the good neighbor gate. Right? My good neighbor and I have a gate between us. It's funny, I was just talking to somebody about a piece of land that this guy bought, and they decided to put a fence around their property, and they told their neighbor they were gonna put the fence up, and because they had dogs, they wanted to keep the dogs safer, and the guy's like, yeah, that's fine, it's your property, do what you want. He's like, yeah, I know, but he put a good neighbor gate on his neighbor's yard so they could use the pool still and get back in the backyard where the pool was.
Oh, that's nice of them.
That's personal and revocable, though. He may not have done that for a shitty neighbor, right? But the neighbor he liked.
Right.
And the thing is since he put up the fence, he has the right to put a lock on that gate. If the next guy who moves in is crappy, that's because it's personal and revocable to the one guy, right? If the one
Oh, that's cool.
bringing like
Okay.
52 other people's kids to the place, he might change his mind about letting him have that good neighbor gate and put a lock on it,
Yeah.
So a license is personal and revocable.
License, personal and revocable.
Yes. The two key words for license are personal and revocable. So I'd write down license equals personal/revocable.
It's personal, revocable, personal.
Which of the following is considered real property? Land and buildings, artificial items which are immovable by law, easements that convey rights of way over adjoining land, or all of the above?
All of the above.
All of the
Good.
above.
Y'all agreed on that one?
Sorry,
The
my
right to use, possess, enjoy, transfer, and dispose of a thing to the exclusion of all others describes an estate, a real estate, ownership, or equity.
Ownership.
Yes.
A.
real estate.
Nope. It's
Oh.
own. The right to use, possess, transfer, and dispose
Oh,
of a thing. Whatever the thing is, would
Right
be,
to use, possess, transfer.
yeah,
Ownership.
that
Right
has to do with your
use,
bundle of
possess,
rights.
Ownership.
Oh.
Right to use, possess, transfer, ownership.
Mhm.
Right to use.
This
possess,
is the
transfer.
textbook definition of ownership. It could apply to personal property as well as real property. That's why it wasn't an estate or real estate, because those both would be.
Right to use,
Bill.
possess, enjoy, transfer. Ownership.
It could be your roller skates. It could be your hat. In which of the following ways does real property differ from personal property? It's immovable by law, in the method conveyed, in the acquisition and transfer of title, in the type of loan instrument.
deal is immovable by
A.
law.
Different. It's
Yep.
immovable by law.
Yes, real property is immovable by law. 2 years into a 10-year lease, the lessor and lessee sign an agreement to terminate the rental agreement, with the lessee vacating the property and the lessor not demanding any further payment of rent. This is known as reformation, release, surrender, or constructive eviction.
Surrender.
C.
Surrender.
Or yes, the landlord is surrendering the contract and the tenant is surrendering the property.
So what would be, Kathy, again, constructive eviction?
Constructive eviction is when the landlord makes it impossible for the tenant to stay there. They keep doing unnecessary repairs to the property. They keep checking in all the time. They're that
Mhm.
horrible landlord that shows up at your doorstep all the time and you kind of hate them. But mainly it's they don't repair something that was broken that needs, like, they don't make sure the heater works or the air conditioning works or whatever. That's constructive eviction.
Okay.
When renting residential property, the amount of a deposit which a lessor may legally receive from a lessee is determined in part by which of the following: the number of square feet in the building, whether the unit is furnished or not, the number of children and pets who will occupy the premises, or the number of adults who will reside in the unit.
B.
B.
It is B, whether it is furnished or not. They can charge more. The maximum deposit the landlord can legally receive depends on whether the unit is furnished. The basic rule is 2 months rent on an unfurnished unit and 3 months rent on a furnished unit.
Didn't the law just change this year, by the way?
I don't know.
I think the governor signed something where they can't take a deposit for 2 months. I think it's only has to be 1 month deposit or something.
I'll have to look that up because I don't know.
I think it went into effect January 1st, or it's gonna be in effect in July 1st or something, but it's something to that effect. So this
Okay.
question changed.
This question could change. And this is like an online test, so it's kind of cool because they do update it. Sometimes there's questions on here I've never seen before. Which of the following would not constitute constructive eviction by the lessor? Failure to repair property damaged caused by the tenant's improper care, turning off the utilities during winter, failure to maintain the property in habitable condition, extensive and unwarranted alterations made to the property. Which one was not constructive eviction?
E.
Huh?
They can't turn off the utilities.
But which one is not constructive eviction?
D.
Oh, failure to maintain the property, extensive and unwanted alterations.
A.
Failure
A.
to.
The tenant
think it's
damages
D.
the property. If
Oh,
the
by the
damages
tenant.
the property, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not responsible for
However,
the
the tenant-
tenant's damage.
Oh, by the tenant. I misread that.
Me
Oh
too.
my God.
I didn't read the tenants. I was like,
Yes,
I read it too fast.
oh,
Constructive eviction occurs when an action by the lessor causes the property to be uninhabitable. If the damage is caused by the tenant's improper care, that would not be constructive eviction. That's why when people move in and move out, they have to fill out a sheet saying what the condition is, you know?
these questions are tricky, Kathy, because you misread a little piece and then you get it all wrong.
Yep.
You know, I'm
That's
like,
why you
oh
gotta
my
go
God.
slow and ask yourself the
Yes.
answers. Of
Well, sounds
indefinite
great.
duration is a characteristic which is particularly descriptive of an estate for years, an estate for period, an estate of inheritance, or an estate less than freehold.
B.
Date of
Definite.
inheritance.
See,
Less
yeah. Estate of inheritance. The other three are all less than freehold estates, and the estate of inheritance is a fee or
Yeah.
freehold estate, indefinite.
Estate
So
of-
fee or freehold, state of inheritance, life estate.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you don't know. Yeah.
Duration.
Don't croak.
You don't know when you're gonna croak. You don't know when your bucket's gonna kick.
Mhm.
In addition to the land and those things that are attached to the land, certain things are called appurtenances and are real property. Which of the following would not be an appurtenance? Water course, trade fixtures, a dwelling, or a fence?
Water courses.
You're saying the water doesn't run with the land?
No,
It does
trade-
run.
Trade fixtures,
fixtures.
Mayor.
Fixtures.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
The water doesn't go. We're gonna move the river. Trade fixtures,
Like
remember, are
river.
necessary. Trade fixtures are necessary to your trade or business. So even though they're personal property, even though they're real property, like if they're attached like real property, you get to take them with you, right? So you put up the racks against the walls, you screwed them in, they're bolted and whatever in, because you know the kids are gonna hang on your clothing rack. When you move to your bigger place, you're gonna take those racks with you and put them in your new place, even though you installed them like they were real property. As long as you can leave the surface of the wall the same, you can take all of your stuff and you don't have to ask or pay the landlord or anything. You just, trade fixtures are necessary to your trade or business.
Yes.
And they're considered personal property unless you leave it there and abandon it there and then it stays there, and then, yeah, then it becomes real property. Which of the following is an interest but not an estate in real property? A remainder, a mortgage, a reversion, or an easement?
Interest.
Easement?
E.
Yep. A mortgage is a lien.
Uh-huh.
An estate is a reversion, and an estate and remainder are freehold estates. An easement is the right to use as a non-possessory interest in the land of another.
Mm. Oh, there's an interest.
Mhm.
Interest.
A lessee renting a business office often attaches certain items to the real property. These items may, prior to the expiration of the lease, be removed provided no substantial damage to the property results. Of the following, which best exemplifies such items? Trade fixtures, fixtures for manufacturing purposes, articles affixed for domestic use, or any of the above?
Any of
A.
the above?
It's A, trade fixtures.
What? Oh, any of the above.
No, any of the above.
Any of those.
And no, because an article affixed for domestic use, like a ceiling fan.
I know, but it's so vague. It's not like all of the above, like any of the above. Like, yeah, it's A.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, it's A.
Any of them still, it's still true. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You would not
Okay.
attach manufacturing equipment in a business office and items attached to domestic use would not be a trade fixture. So yeah, so just remember that, a business office.
Okay.
A lessee running a business office often attaches certain items of real property,
Okay.
A city's master plan would include access to water, drainage, and sewage, recreational and commercial areas, as well as subdivision design, flow of intercity traffic on freeways, or all of the above.
Has to be
the
above.
above.
All the
All
above.
of the above?
Yeah. All of these items would appear on the city's master plan as drawn up by the planning commission. Ownership rights and interest in real estate are called liens or encumbrances, absolute land sales agreement, estates or fees, or all of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Really? Ownership rights would be liens? A lien is like your mortgage payment on your house. Like that's called real estate? I thought a mortgage was personal property. I thought it was a piece of paper that said, you think all of the above is really the right answer there?
Interest.
Estates or fees?
Property are called.
And what the hell is an absolute land sales agreement? Like when did we ever talk about that?
No.
Silly gooses. I'm like, what? A lien is a money encumbrance, right? So like an encumbrance is like an easement is an encumbrance, right? Let's define stuff here. A lien is a money encumbrance, and other encumbrances could be an easement. That is not an ownership right, right? That's the right to cross over someone else's land. It's not even rights of possession. It's right to like use something else.
Yeah, that means there's no way
Don't be getting lazy, folks. No lazy bones Jonesing over here. One of the main differences between real and personal property is that real property can be held in joint tenancy, is immovable. It is subject to depreciation over a period of time. It can be willed. What's the main difference between real and personal property?
B.
It's immovable.
Movable. We've had that exact question before.
What can we go with real and personal?
A lessee rents a building from May 1 to July 1. His tenancy is month to month, periodic tenancy, fee simple estate, or estate for years.
D.
Ooh,
Is that right?
I don't think
No,
so.
no,
Leases
No,
rent a
because
building from
rents a
May.
building.
It's a beginning date and the ending date.
There you go,
B.
Dorita.
No, I thought you was gonna tell. I was gonna
You
renege
did.
on that question. You
You
was
say
trying to-
you're nothing, but you're right.
I was,
Okay,
month to month.
Kathy.
I was
Okay, Kathy.
Dorita.
Oh, month to month and periodic tenancy is the same thing. We just talked about this. God.
Month to month and periodic tenancy are the same thing, yeah.
They are the same thing.
Yeah. All
Kathy,
of
you
the following would be
correct.
classed as real property except unextracted crude oil, like Jed Clampett, until he extracts it.
Who the heck is
Leasehold
that one?
estates and residential properties, uncultivated grove of trees, easements appurtenant.
That's right. It's real property.
Which one of these is not real property?
Easement.
See?
A.
What?
Extracted crude. No, that you can't touch
It's
that
not-
oil.
Excuse me.
Uncultivated.
No, not
B?
A.
That
Not A.
is B.
It's
Leasehold.
B, a lease.
Residential.
A lease is a piece of paper.
Personal property is B.
You know, when I read that A, I was thinking about, you kept talking about Jed Clampett. I kept thinking about the oil is out.
What a name.
Well, that's his
It
name.
says
but
unextracted. It's in the ground.
It's unextracted. But see, you kept talking about the Beverly Hill buildings. I was thinking about the oil is flowing. Now it's okay. Never mind.
But leases are in every question on, like, there's been like probably 4 or 5 questions like this, and they always are bringing up the lease, guys. Okay. Riparian rights give absolute ownership of adjacent waterways, are set forth in a standard title insurance policy, may accurately be determined from an examination of public records, include the right to reasonably appropriate water as needed.
D.
A.
D.
There's no such thing as absolute water rights, people.
Ah,
When you use words like absolute and things like that, like you're talking about, what is an absolute water right? I can do whatever I want. No, you only own so much out into the lake or so much out into the river, you know, depending on high and low tide, so that when you put your pier out there, your boat will still float when the tides roll out, you know what I mean? And stuff like that, but you don't have absolute water rights.
But you got stuck on waters. And you're like, that's the answer.
Yeah.
But there was a better one out there.
Include the right to appropriate water, remember? So some people have riparian rights even when they're not on the lake or whatever, because they have those rights of appropriation to use the water as needed.
As needed.
A real estate broker may have difficulty with personal property because its ownership rights and identification may be difficult to determine. This is because personal property can be alienated, hypothecated, become real property, or all of the above.
All of the above.
Yes. Alienated means given away. Hypothecated means what? Who remembers the definition of
Use it.
hypothecated?
You can use it as collateral.
Yes. Good job.
Oh my God. I'm getting it.
And it can also become real property.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
When the law finds that an owner has riparian rights, it means he has the rights relating to the use and ownership of water from which of the following sources: rivers, streams, and water courses, underground cavities, the arms of a bay, or all of the above.
I know
A.
it. I know it.
Definitely A, but what is the arms of a bay? The arms of a bay? There's arms.
A.
What are the arms?
Yeah,
of a
what is
bay?
that about?
Underground cavities.
I know what underground
That's like-
cavities is.
Is that like
It's
sub?
not moving.
Like sub?
It's not usually moving.
But
Is
I
it?
think in this one, when they're talking about when the law finds an owner has riparian rights, I don't know. You guys could be right with A, but I think it's D. What do you want to go with?
I want to go with D.
A.
I don't get it.
I'm gonna go with
I
A.
think it's A.
Oh, it was A.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
All right,
Yeah.
so
A. A.
you guys were right. So stick with riparian and river, baby.
But what the heck is the other stuff? Okay.
It's other ways you can get water, but I guess
Yeah.
that's what they're
But
talking
those are
about.
probably
What was
man-made.
something about the arms of Bay? What does that mean?
Those are
Man-
probably man-made. So that's why you can't. The other ones
Well,
are
the arms of a bay, I think, are like when a bay has like little canals and channels and stuff like that. That would be
Oh.
like the arm of a bay, you know? Those little
Okay.
channels that you can like go through. When leasing commercial property that is merely a shell space, the landlord often agrees to spend a specific amount for a qualified tenant. This amount is properly designated as a rent abatement, a tenant improvement allowance, a security deposit, or an earnest money deposit.
B.
Yes, they improve the property. I think we got 99. Wasn't mine. Oh, we got 98. We missed 2 of them. Not too bad. So if I took this test myself, I'd be like, yeah, I know the subject well enough. I don't need to take it again. I'm good to go. I understood it. I didn't memorize it. I talked myself, like I talked myself into the one question and the one I didn't know. I don't really care. But let's say what Melinda did. Tell me what you did, Melinda. Where did you go to share the ones you missed? Retake missed questions?
Yes.
And then how did you get it to print?
property interest.
So at the end, it's gonna store it in the that whole list of like the tests. So I opened it and then I can't remember what I did. I hit control something and it let me like forward it